iPhone SE versus iPhone 8. That video is coming up right now. Let's go. So what is up, guys? Nick here, helping you to master your technology, and welcome to the iPhone SE versus the Apple iPhone 8. Now, I do want to make one thing clear out of the gate. I know a lot of people are just watching this because they own an iPhone SE, but the reason I'm making this video is to help potential upgraders decide if they want to ditch this phone and come over to the iPhone 8. Now, some people have found my channel and think that, I love this phone just because I made videos about it. Absolutely, that's not the reason why I make videos about this. A lot of fans have requested particular types of videos, so we have created quite a few on this device. Same with the iPhone 8. I have plenty of requests on this one, so you're going to see a lot of videos coming here on this phone coming soon to the channel. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the specifications of these that matter. Now, I'm not going to go on too heavy with this. We do have, Touch ID 2nd gen over here, Touch ID 1st gen. 4-inch Retina display, 326 pixels per inch, 4.7-inch Retina display, still 326 pixels per inch, iOS 11 on both of these guys. You do have True Tone here. You don't have True Tone here on the iPhone SE. A9 CPU, that is a 3rd generation 64-bit chip by Apple. You do have the A11 CPU Bionic over here. And this one actually has PowerVR GT7600 graphics versus the Apple in-house built 3-core graphics here on the iPhone 8. So this might perform a little bit better because Apple built their own graphics for this device. So gamers, you're going to love the iPhone 8. Now, they both have 12 megapixel cameras, but don't be fooled. The iPhone 8 is much better than the iPhone SE's. It does 4K 60 and it produces much better images. And if you took side-by-side examples, everyone would be able to see the difference here in the camera. And other than that, that's pretty much the main differences. It's definitely a thinner phone than the iPhone SE. In terms of weight, they feel very similar. Surprisingly, the iPhone SE is not that much lighter. I would say slightly lighter maybe on the SE, but I can't really tell too much of a difference in the weight, even though this one definitely looks bigger. Now, the premium feel of the glass makes it feel a little bit heavier than the iPhone 7, as mentioned in the previous video, but the SE is not the lightest phone I've ever felt in the world, but it's pretty light iPhone. All right, guys, so I'm going to talk first here about the design, the body, and the build between these devices if you're thinking about doing an upgrade here. So a lot of people love this classic iPhone design. Personally, at the time, I thought it was pretty amazing design. Today and age, I think this design is extremely dated, to be honest with you. It looks like it's 5-6 years old by now. In my opinion, with all the new smartphones that are on the market, this one just does not stand out anymore, in my opinion. Now, that's just an opinion. You might differ, and that's okay. We're all human. We all got our own opinions and stuff like that. But personally, I think if you were to buy this phone right now, you don't have the latest looking design. Actually, most people would say, do you have the iPhone 5? And they won't be thinking you have a new iPhone. Now, if you're trying to stay under the radar and you don't want people knowing you have a new iPhone, this is a good iPhone to pick up here. Other than that, we can talk about its weight. Like I said earlier, it's lighter, 113 grams here over the iPhone 8, which is 148 grams or so. You don't have antenna lines. You do have glass inserts here, aluminum build on the back, but this aluminum, I do want to mention, is not the highest of quality. This aluminum stains pretty easily on the iPhone SE. I don't think I've mentioned that too much in the past here for this phone. On the front, the glass, not quite as strong as the glass here on the iPhone 8. It does scratch a little bit easier here for the SE, but overall, pretty durable little phone. I'd still put a case on this thing overall, but design still premium, even though it is 2017. And for, some of the cheap prices you can find this phone for, it's definitely not a cheap feeling phone, an iPhone SE. But I still think it's in need of an update, seriously, when it comes to its design, body, and build. Now, over here on the iPhone 8, this one is nothing to write home about either. I mean, this one is pretty old as well when it comes to the design, but at least Apple did something here with the new glass on the rear, new color here, and cleaning up that little text under the iPhone. Everything's under the glass. It's a pretty nice design. Definitely, you would think it's a newer phone if you've seen it from the back. Now, from the front, definitely not. But over here on this guy, if you see it from the back, you can't tell really if it's a 5 or an SE or a 5S. Over here, you could definitely tell that's an iPhone 8 if you see it from the back. Definitely, because they're all the different colors. They just look different. Now, from the front, this one doesn't really change too much from the iPhone 6, and it's a little bit weighty, but I do like the space gray on the side. It's very stealthy here for this iPhone 8 in this gray color. So this is the color I think I would go with if you did go with an iPhone 8. Now, if you're not into darker colors and you like the white iPhone front face, which we might never see again with these all-screen designs, then I definitely would probably stay away from this one. But what I don't like about the iPhone 8's design is it has these thick bezels still here on this phone. But in terms of design, body, and build, if you were picking one of these, it really comes down to, do you want a smaller square phone or do you want a curvy, bigger phone here, but still good balance? So I think the iPhone 8 offers better design due to it strikes a better balance between not too big, not too small, but still feels premium. I think the SE is a great one-handed phone, but there's a lot of times when you're just wishing you had just a touch more screen real estate. And I think that's why a lot of people are waiting for maybe, just maybe, a notch or, an all-screen iPhone. Yes, I've seen some rumors about a notch on an upcoming iPhone SE. That's why I said the notch. But let's go ahead and get onto the displays now of these phones. Okay, guys, so talking about displays, the iPhone 8 display is definitely better than the iPhone SEs. Let's get on to the next section. No, I'm kidding with you. Actually, I'm going to tell you why the iPhone 8 does have a slightly better display than the iPhone SE. Actually, I wouldn't say slightly. I would say markedly improved over the SE. Number one is color reproduction. So although these both have very nice and bright displays, the iPhone 8 actually gets brighter and it reproduces better colors, P3 color gamut. So if you're not into, professional photo editing and stuff like that, you wouldn't know what that means, but it means that it has more accurate colors here and it has a higher contrast ratio than the iPhone SE. Now, this was also true for the iPhone 7, and this display also includes True Tone. So I think this pretty much hits the SE on every point in improvements. So when it comes to the display, you also get a slightly bigger size, and it's not really a big deal when it comes to coming up to this phone because you might say, well, I got my one thumb. They included reachability here. In addition to that, here on the iPhone 8, you can go ahead and go to display modes, and you can turn on the zoom mode. And when you turn on the zoom mode, you can go ahead, hit use zoom, and when we get into use zoom, it's going to give you these big fat icons just like you have on your iPhone SE. You see that right there? And then it's just very easy to use with one hand. So that little argument there about the one hand, not a big deal here for the iPhone 8. It's pretty easy on this phone as well. Okay, guys, so I want to touch home on a few more display points. And that is, I kind of talked about the technicalities of display, but honestly, if you put these displays side by side, most people would not see those technical differences. You really got to have an eye for these things. I happen to have that eye for these things. And honestly, the SE will get the job done. It's not going to disappoint you. Its display is not a disappointing display at all whatsoever. I don't want to sit over here and make it sound like it's a bad display. It's not a bad display. As a matter of fact, for what the SE is going for, it does a better job than a lot of displays. However, I do want to mention a lot of Android phones now in this price range are starting to come standard with 1080p. So I do personally think the SE needs a nice update when it comes to display, but I'm not going to deny that this one doesn't need an update either. I would like to see 1080p standard on smaller iPhones at the bare minimum. Okay, guys, so let's talk quickly about the software. Now, the software, I'm not going to go on and on about. It's iOS 11. We all know what this thing is by now on both of these phones. Whether you prefer to run this on a 4-inch screen or a 4.7-inch screen is up to you. It's going to give you the same experience pretty much around the board. One thing that does look nicer on a bigger screen is the control center. It's easier to press the targets, and you do have 3D touch here, which makes iOS 11 a little bit more enjoyable. It seems to work better with 3D touch, and it seems to be a little bit more, made for that function over the iPhone SE. However, what's nice about iOS 11 for the SE is because the bolded fonts come to the App Store in the bigger card view, it's easier to see stuff here on a 4-inch screen with iOS 11. So there are improvements here to the SE. However, the battery life has been pretty horrible compared to its launch software, which was iOS 9. On this guy, this launches with iOS 11, so it runs fantastic here, and it does give you better battery life than the SE currently does with its latest software. Its current form, this software actually does stutter on both phones from time to time. I do think it's still probably one or two in the world's best software right now. It could be argued who's got the better software, Android or iOS, Google Pixel, iOS, who knows? That's up to you to decide right here. Samsung even could be thrown in the mix, LG could be thrown in the mix. That's really up to you to decide. But in terms of their software overall, I'm going to give it a solid win here. I think both are going to give you a fantastic experience. I think that It's a little more enjoyable on a bigger screen though. It just seems to be a little bit more optimized for it. I mean, it's got these big bubbles that have like notifications. You get notifications like these big bubbles, and you can just see more on a bigger screen. So iOS does make it easier to read stuff on a 4-inch screen, but I think iOS 11 just seems to work better on a bigger screen. So, however, there's no clear winner in terms of these phones when it comes to their software. The iPhone SE, in terms of its camera, we're talking cameras here now. We'll get onto the 8 in a second. Pretty fantastic little camera here in this guy. It'll get the job done. 4K resolution in a 4-inch phone. That's pretty impressive here for a smartphone. However, this has become pretty run-of-the-mill these days, and the SE, to me, produces pretty natural looking colors, very similar to what we had on the iPhone 6S. Its shutter speed is pretty fantastic. I'm not upset with its shutter speed. However, the picture just doesn't stand out. You know, I actually have a sister with the iPhone SE, and she always tells me, man, the iPhone 7 picture, the iPhone 8 picture looks so much better than my SE. I really am ready to upgrade to an iPhone 10. So I think that what you get here in the iPhone SE is basically Apple's modern day standard camera affair here in the SE. Now that doesn't mean it's a bad camera, but the front camera is pretty laughable at 1.2 megapixels. However, some reason the front facing camera performs okay. Even though it has a 1.2 megapixel, you still have live photos. This is a starter phone when it comes to the front-facing camera. Rear camera, you can get some professional stuff done if you know what you're doing on the SE. Now, the iPhone 8 takes it up a notch here with 4K 60 and better punched-up saturation. Up a notch here with 4K 60 and better punched-up saturation. So what that means is that when you take a photo, you're just going to get a better overall shot without doing much of anything here on the iPhone 8. In addition to that, the iPhone 8 does give you, it looked like we had a little lag there. The iPhone 8 does give you the ability to have like a little vibration when you do take a photo. Going to the front camera, this also is a market improvement over the iPhone SE and looks much better. Selfies are killing the SE here on the iPhone 8. There's no question about it. That's my direct answer. And most people would agree if they took these selfies side by side and compared them, the iPhone 8 is killing the iPhone SE. So that's what I feel about the cameras here. Storage on iOS 11 is actually faster than ever before, so you can store a lot of photos even on smaller storage iPhones, and you do got iCloud and stuff like that. And overall, I think both cameras will impress you, but I think that the front-facing camera, if you care about that, you're going to want to go with the 8. And if you want the best camera on your phone, skip this phone. Get the iPhone 8. All right, so let's get into the battery life section of both of these phones. On this guy, we do have 33% and currently in this video. That doesn't really matter. It's a smaller battery. It's a little bit over 1600 milliamps. This one also is in the 1600 milliamp department, but for some reason, it has a much more efficient processor. It just gets a better battery life than the SE. Now, the SE is no chump, though. For a small phone, this thing can outrun most bigger Android phones that you can buy. I mean, some 5.7-inch cheaper Android phones will get destroyed in battery life by this little 4-inch iPhone SE. So this is no phone to laugh at. This phone gets really good battery life. Standby is pretty impressive, but the iPhone 8 just does an overall better job than the iPhone SE in the battery life department in my experience thus far. All right, guys, so let's talk about performance. A9, A11, we're not going to do a speed test here. I'll do that in a separate video. Overall, day-to-day, just like I said with the iPhone 7 versus the iPhone 8, not a big deal here. Both of them run smooth. Both of them will, run your day-to-day stuff, no problems. I know for a fact, though, if I'm editing a video, the iPhone 8 will eat the iPhone SE for breakfast. And what that means is just a little, metaphor for saying that this phone doesn't stand a chance against the iPhone 8 if I'm rendering out a video clip. Now, if I'm just doing some Instagram, emailing, multitasking, going into calendar, doing some calling, doing some messaging, maybe listen to some music, I don't see any differences here in performance. Maybe the iPhone 8 opens a slight app a little bit quicker, and maybe in the future, it will make the iPhone SE look very slow. But right now, it's not really doing that at all to Apple iPhone SE. So if you're buying either one of these today, it really depends on what you're doing. If you're just doing daily stuff, it's not really a big difference here in that regard. But like I say, I'll reserve a separate speed test to see how the real world performance is on both of these. All right, guys, so what about the audio and the calling experience? Well, here is a market win here, a very big win here actually for the iPhone 8, and that is the speakerphone performance. Front-facing speakers, way louder, way crisper, way better than SE. It just destroys it there on that regard. There is no chance in terms of speakerphone. So you can forget about the SE versus the 8 there. This is a clear win on this guy. Now, when it comes to phone talking experience, I also find the 8 to be a better phone talking. It's a little bit louder and it sounds a little bit clearer than the SE. So this is not the best phone if you ask me. This phone is much better than this guy when it comes to this regard. And I'm not, I'm being honest here with you. If this phone was better, I would tell you, but it's just not, So anyway, a couple more things to tell you about these two phones here, a little miscellaneous things. Bluetooth 4.2, Bluetooth 5.0. You don't get that here on SE, so you have better Bluetooth connectivity going forward with this phone. This guy has a neural engine, so it's going to be better equipped for AR. It's a much more future-proofed phone here with iPhone 8. Also, another thing I want to mention, IP67 lifestyle, water resistance. You don't get that here on this guy. And other than that, 3D touch, we talked about that earlier. The iPhone 8 is just a more refined smartphone. Wrapping this up with a conclusion though, again, this one, it doesn't, a lot of people like to say it really comes down to just price. Actually, no, it doesn't. It comes down to a lot of other factors. We mentioned a lot of them here in this video. It comes down to what you need. Is your hand large? Is your hand small? Do you really like these tiny phones? Do you want something that can fit in your pocket easy? Do you like something you like to travel with? You don't like big phones at all. You used to like the days when we had 4-inch screens. You're gonna love the iPhone SE. Do you like a premium glass phone days of the iPhone 4, but you were always looking for a bigger screen? You didn't like those ugly lines that came on the iPhone 6? And that's an opinion. You might think they were ugly. Personally, I didn't think they were ugly, but I heard people say that they were ugly. So if you think they were ugly, you might like this cleaner design with glass on the iPhone 8. If you're someone who doesn't really care about having the fastest phone in the world and you're trying to save a buck or two, you might love the iPhone SE. But if you're looking for probably what Apple's best phone is right now until, 12 hours now till the iPhone 8 comes out, this is the phone you're going to want to get here in the iPhone 8. If you want a direct answer from me, if I'm walking to the Apple store right now, I'm pretty sure you know which one I'm choosing. It's the iPhone 8. And that is because simply it just offers pretty much an improvement in every area to me. I mean, the camera's better. To me, the design is better. The fingerprint speed is faster. The screen also looks better with True Tone. It's bigger. It runs games better. It also has, reachability, which I think is fantastic. It would be nice to even see reachability on this phone, but we don't see it here. It has 3D touch. It's future-proof. Better front-facing camera. Front-facing speakers. One thing the SE I forgot to mention, though, gets an easy win, is that headphone jack. You don't get a headphone jack here, but also you get very horrible speakers in comparison to the speakers on the iPhone 8. So you got to really pick and choose here which ones you got. So that's it for me, iPhone SE versus iPhone 8. If you guys found this video helpful, enjoyable, do me a favor, go ahead and click that like button for me. If you're new here, consider subscribing. Which one would you go with? Leave it down below in the comments. Nick here helping you to master your technology. Be sure to be well, and peace.